welcome everyone to the ScreamCast episode 75. I am Sean DeRager, and with me is Brad Henderson.
Yo.
And also with us is BJ Colangelo.
Hi.
Now you probably noticed there is 2 episodes dropping this week. We figured we couldn't let a week go by without talking about Wes Craven as soon as possible. And so instead of waiting a week, we decided to just sit down and have a little retrospective on Wes Craven, who unfortunately passed away over the weekend due to complications with or a battle. He was battling brain cancer, which was completely surprising to me because it hadn't really been news. Have you guys heard about it at all, or did you keep it on the DL?
Yeah, I remember them mentioning something about him not feeling well or being sick. But he kept his personal life pretty secret. Wasn't really, I guess maybe didn't want the attention or something.
Yeah, I knew that there was something wrong, but I had never heard, the C word being dropped. So that was a complete shock to me. And, I tweeted right after I heard it, like, hey, cancer, up yours with a twirling lawnmower, because it's just such a fucking mean disease. And it just makes me sad to know that, it's not like it was an easy way to go, because there's nothing easy about cancer, let alone brain cancer.
Yeah. I guess he lived in Martha's Vineyard for a while, and then he moved back to L.A. for work, and I guess because of health reasons. What was he currently working on? He was doing the Scream TV series. Was he involved in that at all?
I thought just for, like, characters and stuff.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I don't think he had any affiliation with it.
Okay.
Yeah, just being credited as characters, not anything major.
Okay, all right. Did he have anything in the works at all, or was he just...
I think he always had stuff in the works.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that he really wanted to do that Scream, I mean, obviously that's what kind of came about... with the series, but he wanted to do that new trilogy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I don't think he was too vocal about his upcoming projects. Maybe because he was just so sick. Maybe that's the reason why he didn't really mention it.
Huh. That's interesting. So we figured we'd. Brad actually texted me today and was like, "Dude, we got to do Wes Craven." So, which is a no-brainer. So we'd probably keep it. This episode is short and sweet, but we just wanted to kind of give a retrospective on what, I guess, his career meant to us and him as a filmmaker and director and storyteller meant to us. So I'm going to let Brad go first.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
I'm
such
feeling
a gentleman.
Generous tonight.
You get introduced first?
No, I think Brad said some...
Yeah.
You said some... You had a tweet the other night, or it was yesterday.
That summed it up pretty well. About for the past, that's all. Actually, I don't think I've said anything else other than stuff about Wes Craven.
Yeah.
Well, I think I talked about something about guns. I made a snarky comment about guns, but that's about it. But no, I mean, when I was actually sitting on right here last night, and I was actually writing, with a screenplay, and I get little alerts pop up from certain people that I really want to know what they're saying at, times. You follow people direct, just because there's a couple people out there. I like to know their thoughts and opinions on stuff. And I just saw, talking about Wes Craven, the hashtag, and I was like, what's going on, about Wes? So I clicked on it, and it was the worst news that I heard that day. And probably all week, and probably for the month, maybe for the year, who knows? And just that he passed away, and I, it's weird because celebrities pass constantly. We see that all the time, and it's sad. It's sad when celebrities pass, and sent out plenty of rest in peace tweets, or that sucks. Really, it's a cool person, nice person, whatever. If you knew him indirectly or directly, it doesn't matter. But this is I want to say this is the first, celebrity death that, kind of hit a close to home, just because, among other directors as well, it wasn't for certain people, I wouldn't be probably doing this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't really maybe be into horror as much as I would, or, as much as I am, depending on, like Carpenter or James Cameron is a big one for me, and Wes Craven's always been a major one. So yeah, it actually is one of the ones that hit a little close to home, because I feel that if it wasn't for some of his films, I probably wouldn't be as active or as interested in horror at all, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's I didn't break down and cry or anything, but it hurt.
Yeah.
It was even though I didn't know Wes Craven at all, I've always been really, really big on his, just him speaking in general, his storytelling, his direction, of course, but most of all, just interviews with him, because he's such an intelligent person. Just the way he carries himself and the way he speaks, he just kind of is just this trance you get lost into, just listening to him and how his mind works and how he develops a story and what he pulls from real life that really affected him, because he obviously loves the idea of fear, and he could channel that so well into his films, whether it's, a masked killer or cannibals or a supernatural killer. It was just, it's amazing to watch, how this one person dominated this horror industry, 3 consecutive decades, by the way.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think any other filmmaker has impacted that way, like with something like Last House on the Left, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Scream. You could take away all those other films
Mm-hmm.
and just have Wes Craven do 3 films, and he would still be the landmark he was and is today. Like, just take those 3 films alone. Wes Craven only directed those 3. He would still have that major impact. Not tossing his other films away by any means. But
Well, those were the heavy hitters. Those were the big ones. Those were
Right.
those
but
transcended.
they're monumental.
Yeah.
You take like someone like Carpenter. He has some great films, many, many great films, but nothing really impacted the genre other than maybe Halloween. The thing maybe to filmmakers kind of affects and how to do that and what that means, but to completely change and kind of redefine a genre, I don't know. I really don't think there's too many others, or any others actually, that could do it that many times. I mean, fucking Scream revamped slashers as well as redefined horror, because your characters were self-aware in the movie that had horror movies around them. It's something that we really didn't, maybe dive into. There's films where they mention horror films, but not to the point of where they're discussing movies like we do on a normal basis.
Right.
It's like, man, he acted like this person from this movie. And, it's just constant, mention film after film, especially with like Randy, just comparing just the way everything is turning into, a movie. Just saying the line of, if the cops revisited Prom Night, they would save more time. Always kind of got to me, just a funny line. But, what a fucking impact this guy has had. And we'll always have that landmark.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So
those movies aren't going away anytime soon. Those are still going to continue to have an impact, I think, on younger horror fans for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I speak from kind of that younger side of things. Like Wes Craven as a director is, full disclosure, I totally was a sobbing mess about it yesterday. I really was. And it's because, I didn't obviously put together all the pieces until I got older, but Wes Craven is kind of the one constant, piece of, pop culture that my family and I all agree upon. I know I've talked about it before, like my mom's really big into horror. My dad, not so much. Like he likes to scare people, but he doesn't watch movies because he doesn't like to be scared. But the reason my mom is so into horror is because she and one of her friends went and saw A Nightmare on Elm Street in the theaters.
Oh, man.
And they went to the bar beforehand and got a little tipsy. And then went and saw A Nightmare on Elm Street in the theaters, were scared out of their fucking minds, and then their car didn't start. And they had to walk home in the dark in, like, the Midwestern gross fog. And she's like, you know, and that rush of adrenaline that I had that night is what made me love horror. And then she in turn, you know, brought that love to me. And she would tell me that story constantly about how, you know, she has never felt that way and, you know, she's still always chasing that rush and that's why she watches horror. And then my dad, who doesn't watch horror, like doesn't get into it at all, it was right after I had first started, you know, kind of horror blogging and writing, and I was, you know, 19, I think. So I'd been doing it for about a year, and they started to realize, okay, like, she's really gonna start immersing herself into this kind of shit. And my parents always gave, like, their ideas of what they thought I should be talking about. Like, oh my god, you should talk about the best one-liners. And, like, there's, like, 40 articles about that. I'm not gonna write about that. And then my dad piped in and he's like, do you know what the scariest fucking movie ever made is? The People Under the Stairs. And I was like, I have never seen that movie. And like, granted, my dad's kind of a wuss when it comes to horror movies. I don't think it's the scariest movie in the world. I love it, but it's not the scariest movie in the world. But my dad was like, no, that movie's the fucking scariest movie in the world. And you know what? I will watch it with you. And like, my dad had never at that point watched a horror movie with me. So this was like this huge thing for me that, you know, not only was my dad, you know, supportive of what I was doing with, you know, writing about the horror genre, but he was supportive to the point where he was willing to kind of allow himself to be vulnerable in front of me and watch what he considers to be the scariest movie ever made. And like, I will never forget that moment, like with my dad, because it's something that I'm never going to get again. He's never going to watch a horror movie with me again, ever. Like, we watched Jaws when I was in the hospital, and he was like, he couldn't watch it. Like, he was freaking the fuck out. He would, like, do everything that he could to distract himself. But he watched The People Under the Stairs with me. And, like, that was this really big thing. And, you know, like, Wes Craven films have, you know, popped up in my life constantly. I mean, I loved horror growing up, and everybody thought that I was a weirdo because of it. And then Scream came out, and, you know, it kind of made it okay because it was cool to like horror again, and I wasn't, you know, so weird, and it, you know, changed everything kind of culturally at that point. I don't know, like I didn't get to grow up with, you know, Freddy and Jason and, you know, the quote unquote golden age of horror films. I didn't get that. I got the 90s, which some of them were great, but not a lot of them. But there was Scream, and it kind of encompassed everything that I loved and, you know, made it accessible for the modern audience. And I don't know, just like I go back and, you know, the things that I'm really interested in, obviously, like gender theory, and, you know, then he pops up again with Last House on the Left, and, you know, discussing, you know, rape revenge and, you know, the treatment that we have of women and, you know, all of that fun stuff. And it just, like, he's one of those directors where no matter where I turned, like, he was there in some major fashion influencing my tastes, my thoughts, my, you know, obsessions, my interests, all of it. And I can't say that about a lot of directors. And, you know, Brad brought up the point with, like, Carpenter, like, you know, obviously that comparison is going to always exist the same way that, like, the comparison of, like, Fulci and Argento always exists. Like, that, it is. And it's not to say that, like, Craven or Carpenter, like, one's better than the other, but as much as I love and respect his, like, the work of Carpenter, like, Craven just covered so much fucking ground. Like, the horror genre is so vast and weird and different, and it's like Craven touched his hand in all of it. And that's so cool to me. And the fact that he was a nice person, just like, really kind of is the nail in the coffin, so to speak. He was such a nice person, and he genuinely loved what he did, and he loved scaring other people. And that's cool to me, that a director prides himself in that. I don't know. I don't think that we have directors like him anymore that are just so engulfed in, you know, telling his message his way and scaring the shit out of you while doing it. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like we have anybody with that sense of passion, you know, and creativity anymore.
Well, like he came across as so intelligent, and you said, like, you know, how kind he was. I mean, that's Brad's. You talked about loving hearing him being interviewed and stuff. I mean, I loved every chance I can get whenever he's being interviewed in a documentary, or if I can hear a director's commentary with him, or just anything to hear him talk. Like, I would you know, listen to so many things of him just talking about his movies, because he came across as so kind of quiet and polite and just super nice and intelligent. It's like you wouldn't think he's, you know, the one responsible for the boogeyman that's haunted my nightmares ever since I was a kid, you know.
Well, it's fascinating to me, especially given, you know, his upbringing. Like, he came from a strict Baptist church out of Cleveland. Like, Ohio is famous for having the most serial killers and the most astronauts. Like, people trying to get the fuck out of here. Like, there's something about this state, man, I'm telling you.
I bet a serial killer astronaut. That shit would be crazy.
But it fascinates me that you see this person who has this, like, super rooted background into, you know, such conservatism, and then the way that he, you know, rebelled and expressed himself was just so, you know, just such a hell of a swing on that pendulum.
And he came out. I mean, he came out swinging with Last House on the Left. You know. I mean,
oh my God, yeah.
That's about as far away from his Baptist upbringing as he can get. You know?
Absolutely. and I think that his honesty about that film is what draws me the most to him. Because there are plenty of directors who in the past have, you know, made something problematic and they just fail to admit or accept that. Like, my big one is, like, Eli Roth, who still tries to defend Chick Vision on the special features for Cabin Fever, and I'm like, you're gonna lose this battle, dude, just shut up. Whereas, like, Wes Craven, God, it makes me so pissed. Whereas, like, Wes Craven will be like, you know, I made this film as, you know, my reaction to Vietnam and my influence of the Virgin Spring, and these are the things that I felt at the time, and yeah, I kind of went over the top just because I wanted to go over the top. Like, the fact that he admits that is mind-blowing to me, because it shows that he's a director that not only is willing to continue his education and his willingness to evolve as his audience evolves. Like, he was never a director that was stuck in one particular way of doing things. Because if you watch his films, like The Serpent and the Rainbow is completely different.
I love that film.
From, like, Deadly Blessing.
Yeah.
Like, they're so different. And I think that's so inspiring to me. Like, I don't want to say, like, oh, it's like the Beatles, but, like, that's a great way to explain it. Like, the Beatles sound changed as their audience changed, and Wes Craven's, you know, his topics and his film styles, like, they changed as his audience changed. And that's also something that I don't see very many directors doing. Like,
Yeah.
as great as somebody like a James Cameron or a Steven Spielberg is, I can watch their movies and be like, okay, Spielberg, got it, and know exactly what I'm getting out of it.
Right. You're always going to see the Spielberg push in on a person's face.
Right.
There's the trademarks you're going to see in these directors, James Cameron and Spielberg.
Right, and it's not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but
Right.
I love the fact that with Craven, it was never so fucking obvious.
Yeah.
Like, it was very much his style, but at the same time, he was making films for his audiences. And that's a wonderful, wonderful aspect that I think a lot of directors forget about, is that it's not just about them. It's about the experience and the community of those watching it. And he respected that. I mean, of all the films to rewatch, I rewatched Scream 2 because it's so fucking great. And, they're all sitting there in the film class talking about sequels that are, better. And they make a House 2 reference. Who the fuck ever makes a House 2 reference? Nobody. But Craven's like, I know my audience, and I know the things that they're gonna like, and this is a good joke for them. I don't care if, the squares don't understand it. Maybe they'll go look up House 2. And, that's awesome. He wasn't a director that was just like, I'm going to name drop Night of the Living Dead because it's in the public domain. He's like, fuck it, I'm going to mention House 2, and you're going to deal with it. And that's so cool and so punk rock.
Well, I mean, he did that in the same thing in Scream 2 when, when Randy's going through the slashers, he mentions some obscure, at the time, when they weren't on DVD and Blu-ray, he mentioned House on Sorority Row. He mentions he mentions The Dorm That Dripped Blood. And, those films at that point in time, it was 96, 97?
Yeah.
Those were unheard of at that point. I mean, I think the only time you could get The Dorm That Dripped Blood was under the name Pranks as a bootleg DVD. It was one of those things that turned people on. For people that might have liked slashers or getting into it, that was kind of an eye opener. Because I even remember, I think it was actually House on Sorority Row. I was like, wait, what is that one? Because I knew what Pranks, The Dorm to Drip Blood was, but and he mentions a couple other ones, but it was the one that stuck out. And if it stuck out for me, it definitely stuck out for other people as well.
I always laugh in the original Scream when Rose McGowan's in the garage getting the beer, and she's like, "Oh, what movie is this? I spit on your garage," and I'm like, "That's so funny and clever, and not everyone's gonna get that joke, and it's great."
Yeah, I mean that was just a movie lover. Also, Kevin Williams, just being kind of the brilliant mind he is of making everything self-aware, because at the time, I think I was 12, I guess, when Scream came out. So a lot of those references, I was actually familiar with. I Spit on Your Grave at that point, oddly enough. But some of the other things that they mentioned, it turned me on a lot more to films, because I was like, wait a second, they're mentioning movies that are in my room. Movies that aren't normally talked about, that I don't talk about with friends, but this is in a mainstream movie that's making $100 million at the box office. Now everybody's hearing these titles. So I'm not a weirdo alone. I'm not alone in this. There's other people like me in this podunk town that I live in. So, it felt good. It was definitely an eye opener. But I would like to see that movie now. Like Scream now, it would just be so much more fun to me. I imagine for the older audience. It's so fun. No, I mean, yeah, at this point in time, but I'm saying as a new person, just being who I am today, walking into something like Scream, seeing how self-aware it is, would just be a hell of a great time. I was 12 when I saw it, but I can imagine some hardcore horror fanatics seeing that, in their 20s or 30s. Just having a complete ball with it, that stuff happening. I
had a blast with it. I was just starting to really dive into my little horror education. How old was I? I think I was 21 when it came out. Was I 21?
Old ass.
I think I was younger than that. I think I was 19 or 20. But
When it first came out?
Yeah, I was like 96.
How
right?
old are you?
37.
No, you're fucking not.
Yeah,
You didn't know
37.
that? He mentions
No!
that.
I'm an old decrepit man. I had just graduated high school, so I was in community college, so I was about 18
My
or 19.
brain just exploded.
And I remember, me and this girl from, her name was Joan, and she was in my choir. Have I told the story, Brad?
No,
When
I don't
saw
think so.
Scream?
You don't I'm really impressed with you. That's the one thing is you don't really repeat stories.
I try not to, but
I
but-
do. Sorry,
so
not sorry.
Her name was
do,
Joan. She was awesome. We were both in choir, college choir.
You would be.
She had an amazing voice. She was super cool. So we hung out a lot. This was the first horror movie that I'd gone to with her. I'd gone to like Beavis and Butthead, and she was like kind of one of those girls that's like one of the guys, like she'll pound a bunch of beers and, she just hanging out. She wasn't this dainty little,
Oh, because there's something inherently masculine about
I don't
chugging
know.
a bunch of beers.
I guess.
I'm just giving you shit.
Compared to the other girls that I know that are like, they want a little Appletini at the bar, but she would just get a Bud Light, and then she would light up a Marlboro Red. And,
Oh, that special fucking snowflake of her.
then
Oh, boy.
we'd go to karaoke, and she would like bust out some Joan Jett.
Pantera.
She probably could do Pantera. She had a freaking amazing voice. Anyway, so we'd gone to like movies like Beavis and Butthead, Do America, and stuff like that together. And then we went. So then Scream came out, and we went to Scream, and we had this gigantic bag of popcorn. And let's just say, like by the end of the movie, the popcorn was all over everything because she would talk back to the screen. She would jump at every single of the jump moments. Grab my arm. My arm had like bruises the next day because she was squeezing my arm so hard. But it was
this
like
before or after the movie?
during the movie. But just her reaction was just pure gold. Like, I'm glad that I went and saw that with her because it was just like I guarantee you, Wes Craven would have loved to see her reactions in this film because it was almost like it was written for someone like her to get all the references because she was cracking up, to jump at all the right moments. It was just an experience, So my first time seeing Scream was like, it's embedded in my memory because it's probably one of the best movie going experiences I've ever had. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where I was going with that. But
It's a good story.
But it was fun. I mean, it's. I wish more movies affected people like that because I haven't had a theatrical experience like that. I don't think.
I remember.
I don't think I ever had an experience like that.
What year did Scream come out?
Scream was 96.
Okay, so I would have been 6. And I have these distinct memories of the commercials that they would play. Because like my parent, like I know I've said it before, like my parents let me watch whatever the fuck I wanted. So there was never any like, oh, we can't have MTV on after certain time of night, or we can't have Comedy Central on because after 9 o'clock, all of the sex hotline ads start showing up. Like they didn't care. But I remember being like 6 years old, and it was super late, and my mom had fallen asleep on the couch and left the TV on. And I didn't sleep as a kid. I still fucking don't sleep. And I went into the living room, and a commercial for Scream came on. And the image of Ghostface, like, I had not seen the film. I had no idea what it was. I didn't see Scream until I was about, like, 9. But, like, Ghostface fucking, like, wrecked me. Like, I was so scared of that image that I couldn't fucking handle it. And there was a guy who, like, lived a couple blocks from me. To this day, I still don't know who it was. But every year on Halloween, he used to dress up like Michael Myers and stand in the middle of the road. And just fucking stand there. And, like, all the kids would trick or treat and, like, avoid him because they were always afraid he was gonna jump at them. And I remember that year, he dressed like Ghostface and just fucking stood there. And it was like the most traumatic thing. Like, I wouldn't go down the block. I was like, I refuse. I am not going down this block. And my mom was like, well, we can go around him. I was like, no, absolutely not. It's not happening. And then I got older and I finally saw Scream, and granted, I was still probably too young to be watching it. But I watched it and I was like, yeah, like I'm cool. And then my friends started catching up, as they got older and they started seeing it and they were like, oh man, I saw that movie Scream, like it was so scary. And I was like, yeah, I saw that like 3 years ago and I thought it was so fucking cool. Scream was,
you're such
Scream
a hipster.
was right. I was like a 9-year-old hipster. No, Scream was like, it was like my street cred, like growing up, was because I saw it before everyone else did, and I got the references, earlier than everyone else did, and I don't know.
That's awesome.
When I finally made the connection that, the guy who made Scream was the same guy who made Nightmare on Elm Street, like that was, I think, when my mind was like not able to handle it. I was like, what? Like he made both of these? That's bonkers. Like, that's fucking crazy.
Both.
He made both of them.
I was 6 or 7, or maybe in between 6 or 7 years old when Nightmare on Elm Street came out. So I remember seeing, as like a 7-year-old, seeing those trailers. And those, like, Freddy, I think, was the first boogeyman to, like, I hadn't even seen the movies and he was showing up in my nightmares. And it took me, I remember seeing all the trailers for all those movies, seeing all the box art, but that first trailer when it first came out, I mean, that really scared the hell out of me. And I didn't watch Nightmare on Elm Street until I was a junior in high school, because I was so scared to watch the movie, just because I saw the trailer when I was 7.
And because you're a bitch.
And because I'm a bitch.
See, I was actually mentioning, I think I mentioned this today on Twitter, is that it's being introduced to horror at such a young age, I kind of regret it in a way, and I envy the people that, because a lot of people were just tweeting like Nightmare on Elm Street scared the shit out of them, it haunts them, and obviously that's probably a film that really did fuck up some kids' lives, like having some legitimate like night terrors. I mean, how many directors can say they're responsible for, doctors actually making a lot of money from these fucking, child psychiatrists or something, or,
Well, Freddy was like the ultimate boogeyman. I mean,
yeah.
Because he came to you when you're supposed to be the safest. You're supposed to be safe and sound in your bed, and he was the one that came in and disrupted that more than Michael Myers or Jason. I mean, Freddy was, he can get you whenever you fell asleep, So
well, the thing was, I was watching those. I was watching Halloween. I was watching Friday the 13th. I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street all before I was even 4 or 5 years old, watching these with my mother, watching them when they were on. So they were just normal people to me. Like I didn't develop that fear yet. I didn't have a reason to be scared of anything, I was ignorant to the point of like, are these people hurting one another? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but being in that sense, I was never scared of Nightmare on Elm Street. And I kind of almost regret that, because I never was able to build up that fear. I never had that with those films. I think I tweeted today that I just wanted to fucking hang out with Freddy. Like, I was wanting him to come to my dreams just so we could fucking go terrorize some teenagers or something. Like, I just never had that. And I actually do kind of regret it in a way. Being so desensitized as a kid, that watching him even now they don't affect me as they do other people. The only movie that ever scared me, and still to this day, there's only one movie that ever frightened me as a child, was Child's Play. That really gave me nightmares. I think it was just because it was a doll, because I had dolls, and I think, stuffed animals and shit like that. I think that's probably where that stemmed from. But somebody coming to my dreams, somebody putting on a mask and coming to the front door really didn't terrify me. I didn't think that could happen. It was the dolls coming to life that that scared me. So, maybe seeing things at such a young age isn't great. But
you live and learn.
Yeah, but I would say my first movie, I think I saw Nightmare on Elm Street, obviously, when I was younger. I can vividly remember seeing. I don't even think it was the first one. I think it was maybe one of the later sequels. But the very first film that I saw in theaters from Wes Craven was The People Under the Stairs, which is still my number one favorite Wes Craven film. But I remember watching that in the theater and just like being so fucking happy and just so excited after it was over, getting in the car with my mom, just kept talking about it and, trying to quote it. Obviously I probably fucked it up a few times, but just so happy. And, that film has stuck with me. It's a film that I think about almost daily.
It's so underappreciated.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's a genre mashup, and I think that's the reason why I like it, because we actually had, I don't know if it was on the show, we talked about like how those like children, like those horror films and like those family movies don't exist anymore. And this is People Under the Stairs is kind of like one of those movies, but it's a rated R version of it.
It's like a rated R Amblin.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I love about it. It has that community feel. It has that small town charm. It has the crazy villains. It has the kid hero, trying to prove himself, trying to do something good for a chance, trying to get back at these, awful people, getting trapped in a house, trying to survive the night. And it kind of turns out at the end of the film, it's not what you originally thought it was going to pan out to be. And, it ends like a kid's movie. Money falling from the sky, everybody's so happy.
Mm-hmm.
It just completely goes off the rails. But the thing that makes it such a fucking hard-hitting horror film is Mommy and Daddy.
They're so good.
And
I'm so obsessed with them.
Yeah, it was just and the thing is that you could take any two actors. Obviously the chemistry between I forget her name, but his name's Everett McGill. And I think they were in Twin Peaks together too. But the chemistry between those two, what Craven put together and built between those two, just channeling off of one another. You just want to see a spin-off of just them. It's just they work so well in the movie, and it hits really hard because there's also, I don't know if, and another reason why it's underappreciated, a lot of people don't know, is that there's this really hardcore, like, in-your-face child abuse thing to it that they really don't dive into. It's very briefly skimmed over, and that always got to me. There's that sequence where she's chained up in the attic, and she's chained up on the chimney, and Fool's like climbing up to hit the brick out. And Everett McGill, Dad, or the man is just known as, they don't have names. He comes in and he says something to her, and then he grabs his dick and he lets out this big sigh.
Yeah, it's the most uncomfortable thing.
Right. She comes up, she's like, "Daddy, get down here." And he sighs, because I was like, wait a second, what if she didn't come up there? What the fuck would have happened? But they never really go into strict detail about that or anything. And and I was like, my God, that's a really unsettling moment. It still is to this day. It's extremely uncomfortable because you obviously already know there's incest going on. And the fact that, there's just this really fucked up, what you just want to know more about this family. In a way you don't at the same time, but it's just a really bizarre genre mashup film. I mean, there's plenty of comedy into it as well. It just works all across the board.
The thing that I love the most about it is kind of the juxtaposition of, well, one, it also dabbles in the idea of urban horror, which is not done nearly enough. So we not only have a protagonist that's a child, but we have a protagonist that's a black child. And that's kind of a huge fucking deal, especially
who's
for
a thief as well.
Well, yeah, that's the not so good part about it.
but that's the ironic part of it in a way too.
Right. But that doesn't happen in horror films very often. It's always, haha, black person dies first. And in this, we're following, a black person as kind of our hero. and like that we want them to live and succeed, and like that's not something that ever fucking happens in horror. And you know, it's not like a, you know, Night of the Living Dead where, you know, you can get the argument of like, you know, oh, he really was just the one who auditioned the best. I wrote it. It was nondescript. Like, Fool is specifically written as a black child. Like, you can't make him a white child. It's not the same story. And, you know, just the juxtaposition of that along with like incestuous leather daddy wearing, you know, cannibals is just so fucking bonkers to me. Like, it's the epitome of like white people. Oh,
that's the other thing is cannibalism in the film.
Yeah, there's cannibalism.
It's never fucking mentioned. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's
fucking
just,
buckshot.
It's just there, and you just kind of deal with it. Like I'm under the belief of like that modern slasher films are essentially white minstrel shows. It's just white people being fucking stupid, like, you know, running where they don't belong and asking questions they shouldn't be asking and just making dumb decisions. Just white people being white people. So the fact that like whether he realized he was doing it or not, like Wes Craven was definitely kind of absorbing that, not only with People Under Stairs, but then also later on with Scream, where, you know, we're getting white people being dumb white people. But then at the same time, he also gives us this, you know, some people like to say that Laurie Strode is the, you know, the ultimate final girl, but I will argue tooth and nail that it's Nancy Thompson. Laurie Strode got fucking lucky. She hid out, she whined, she cried, she got lucky. She found a coat hanger. Congratulations. Nancy Thompson plotted. She did research. She checked books out from the library because she's into survival. Like,
but I think it also shows the different time periods too. Like, you know what I mean? It's like
right.
In the 90s, you had more of the strong woman kind of rising, more prevalent, I believe, in films. I think.
Well, Sydney, I would argue, is kind of a weaker tit than Nancy Thompson. Like, Nancy Thompson, like, is untouchable. She was the best final girl because of the fact that she used her fucking brain and didn't just get lucky. Sydney has some good attributes to her.
I'm getting things confused. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
Sydney,
my bad.
Sydney, she has some good attributes to her, but I think he was, you know, Scream plays so much with convention that she kind of needs to fall into some archetypal
I don't know
situations.
what the hell I was thinking. I got confused.
You were hanging out with kids all day. That scrambles your brain.
As you were talking, I was kind of chugging the last part of my beer, so I got a little bit confused.
You're fine. But yeah, like, you know, so we have a director who's not only giving us films that are doing great commentary on society, both, you know, race and socioeconomic statuses, but then he's also very prominently playing, you know, with films in regards to their gender roles, as far as, you know, Last of Us on the Left and Nightmare on Elm Street. And like, that's so fucking crazy to me that he did all of that. And then he also, you know, discusses the things that we don't want to talk about, like alcoholism, because Mama Thompson is a fucking drunk, or, you know, incest and child abuse, or like extramarital affairs, like all of the stuff that we don't ever want to talk about, he puts on Front Street in his films. And like, that's so incredible that he was never afraid to not only point out the ugliness that exists in humanity as far as like our worst nightmares, like serial killers, child murderers, child rapists, whatever. But at the same time, he also takes the ugly sides of humanity that we kind of sweep under the rug, like alcoholism and things like that. And that's just so powerful, in my opinion, for a filmmaker to do that, because it's tackling the subjects that we want to pretend don't exist, and he hits them head on and, you know, makes it absolutely vital and integral to his storytelling, to where if you remove it, it's no longer the same story.
Yeah.
Right. Do you guys think he stopped going that route later in his career? I mean, after say after Scream or Scream 2? Do you think he was kind of held hostage by studios, or 'cause I was always hoping he would come back around and give us a movie as hard hitting as as earlier films like even Nightmare on Elm Street or Scream, but even earlier like the grittier Last House on the Left. He never really got back to that, per se, but he was still, I think, trying different things.
Well, although he didn't direct it, I know he produced it, and he did have his hands in the pot a little bit for the Last House on the Left remake, which I will argue is the right version of that type of story. Because it feels a lot more grounded in reality. Like, the original Last House on the Left is, like, crazy over the top and ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like, my mom and I have watched the original and the sequel together, and in both instances, like, watching both of those films, she always says, "Oh, the remake makes more sense. I would, I would hit somebody over the head with an axe and put their hand, in the garbage disposal. I would not suck a dick to bite it off." She's like, "I wouldn't do that." So the remake, I think, grounds that sort of situation in reality while still maintaining a lot of horrific elements. Mm-hmm. I also think that because it's more grounded in reality, it makes the commentary a little bit more believable and more hard-hitting, because it's not as easy to dismiss, because it's not like there's so many people that watch the original Last House on the Left and they just dismiss it as exploitative trash, and then they miss the message. Whereas if they watch the remake, it is very uncomfortable because it is very realistic and very relatable. So then you have to deal with the message of it. So, obviously I don't know how much input or influence he had on it, but I assume, because the executive produced it, I'm assuming he had some stake in it all. So I would say that was probably...
Yeah. I feel like he was more interested in guiding younger filmmakers once his Scream trilogy, I guess, was done, because his movies are, they kind of take a dive in, quality as far as being memorable, but he was still directing a few things and writing a little bit, but it seems like he stepped up as, I guess, as more producing, which maybe that was more his passion. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, just to let you know, he actually produced Last House on the Left.
Produced, not executive, executive produced.
Right.
Hey, he was executive producer on The Breed, Brad, that badass wild dog movie. But,
I mean, for those who question, maybe they're not too familiar with executive producers and producers. There's a big difference, actually, and whenever he produces something, whenever he had his hands in producing something, you could tell the movies were, especially like the Hills Have Eyes remake is fucking incredible.
It's great.
At some points I think that's superior than the original Hills Have Eyes. I'm actually not that big of a fan of the Last House on the Left remake, but I'll definitely give it another shot. I think I was at that time. What was that, 2008?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2008, 2009. Yeah. I was kind of in no remake mode, stop the remake mode, which I later embraced it, years and years ago. But anyways.
Yeah, I would say I would definitely give it another shot. I mean, obviously, given my history, I'm always going to be a little bit more sensitive to those sorts of storylines, but it's one that when I watched it, I was like, yeah, you got it. That's right. That's exactly how it would have went down. So.
Well, to me also, I'm not a huge fan of Last House on the Left. I think the thing is I understand what you're saying. It is more realistic. It's more toned down. I'm not saying I like the craziness of Last House on the Left. I just don't think I think it did wonders for kind of the revenge genre, but at the same time, I'm not that big of a fan. It's more or less the movie makes me. The reason why I think it's so important is that I don't really get uncomfortable, and I still get really uncomfortable in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
because there's just some really fucking crazy shit that goes down in that movie, and it really does stick with you. So
Well,
I think
just
that's
keep
one of the
telling
reasons.
yourself it's only a movie. It's only a movie. It's only a
Yeah.
movie. Well, that's the other thing too. Like something that's stupid and simple. Like he also brought that to the world. Like, do you know how many times that's been used?
Which movie was that originally used in?
I don't
Was
even
that-
fucking know. But like him attaching it to Last House
Right.
was kind of what.
Okay.
Like it brought that back, and now
Yeah.
it's a staple.
Because it's been
Because
used in
just,
so
like,
many things.
Because the iconography of it on the poster has just been
Right.
used over and over and over and over again.
Well, they used it in Herschel Gordon Lewis trailers.
Yes.
Is
yes.
where it originated, I think.
Yes, but then it like
Like Blood
disappeared
Feast
for a
and stuff. Yeah.
but it disappeared, and then he brought it back, and now it has stayed.
Yeah.
And I think it's.
Or no, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, and I think it's because of the iconography of it on the poster. Like that's because that's where I see it the most is people using that same font in the same format, on either their movie poster or on their blog or whatever. And it's while it originated with Herschel Gordon Lewis. Sorry, I'm yawning. But it's used in the same context that it was for Last House. But sorry for interrupting. Go on.
Oh, no, I interrupted you. But I was going to say one thing that I miss that I wish that would bring back is that certain directors, it was mostly like Dario Argento, after you got done watching his movie, it would say, it would just say, you just watched blah, blah, blah. And it was like, I think it was like I think it's Four Flies on Grey Velvet. It's like, you've been watching Four Flies on Grey Velvet. And it's like, oh, thank you. But a lot of Italian directors did it. And I just always thought it was kind of just a funny thing. And I've always, like, whenever I get to that point, because I wrote a Giallo flick, and I really want to do that at the end. Like, you've been watching, so-and-so. I think it's just a funny thing to have.
That's funny.
I think you should.
We should probably wrap up here soon, but
Wrap up soon. We didn't even talk about Vampire in Brooklyn, another urban horror film.
Well,
that
here's what
Craven has done.
Here's
Huh?
what I want.
Say it, Sean.
God.
Say Vampire in Brooklyn.
Vampire in Brooklyn.
He's racist.
Oh, that's right.
He doesn't want to talk about Vampire in Brooklyn.
I actually have not seen it.
So fun.
It's one that I skipped because the trailer was so bad. What I want to know, and we'll each choose one movie. What's one underseen Wes Craven movie that you think people should give a shot?
Oh shit!
I'll start. I would say Deadly Friend,
God.
And that needs a Blu-ray release, by the way. Deadly Friend would be
Deadly
mine.
Friend?
Mm-hmm. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the more popular ones to me.
We'll see.
That one I think has the more like cult following.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
it was new to me within the past year because Brad told me about it. So.
Yeah, the cool kids table knows
Okay,
about it.
all right.
is
So
the
Cool
way to
Kids
put it.
Table, you guys got to give me one movie that people probably haven't seen or have dismissed but should check out. Brad, go.
Well, I think I mentioned it multiple times. I think we mentioned it on the top Wes Craven movies, but Night Visions. Is
Oh,
a
the TV movie.
TV movie with James Remar. It's just really fucking crazy. I mean, you could totally tell it's a Craven movie by the way it's shot, but James Remar gives the performance of his life, like to the point where it's Nicolas Cage-esque, where he's just going fucking crazy. But that's the thing is, I don't know how people would find it. I don't think it was ever released on VHS. I'm gonna look it up right now, actually. Yeah, it's like one of those things that disappeared. I mean, that's how TV movies were, man. Like, TV movies are so fucking hard to find.
Yeah.
They have to be rescued or something. So, yeah, I don't even see... Yeah. I don't even see it on... Yeah, it's not even on Amazon for like some crazy amount of money. So it's like
it's not even on
available.
YouTube.
Yeah.
It must have never made it. It must have never made it to VHS.
No, I mean, the thing is, it's not. I wouldn't go sit down and say, "Oh my God, it's the fucking greatest, Wes Craven movie ever." But it's just something that you need to see because it was, number one, of course, it's a Craven movie you haven't seen, and number two, it was done, I think, in like late '80s or maybe even early '90s, to the point where he did like Shocker, and then he did Night Visions, and then he did People Under the Stairs. Like, what the fuck happened? Like, like, you do a TV movie, which is not a bad thing in the 90s, but, like, what happened? I mean, Deadly Friend, like, Surfing in the Rainbow,
Hold on, we gotta get BJ to give her pick before you start naming off.
No, I'm saying in order. I'm saying,
gotcha.
he did Surfing in the Rainbow, and then Night Visions, and then he gets right back to like New Nightmare, and then Vampire in Brooklyn, and off to Scream.
Yeah,
it's like it kind of comes from left field. So I think it's an interesting movie to venture and see.
By the way, Night Visions is available on a UK VHS for £6.
There you go. Boom. You got to buy a fucking VCR for it though.
Yeah.
I have two.
Okay.
And
whoa!
I know.
Two. People understand my other one. People understand my other one. All right, I'm done.
Breaking the rules. Okay, so the two that I think people should watch. First one is Swamp Thing, because I fucking love Ray Wise. I love Adrienne Barbeau, and Adrienne Barbeau's titties are nice in that movie.
But they were cut. Her poor titties were cut out.
Shh.
Of the Blu-ray release.
I know.
I had words with Scream Factory on that about that.
I was say you can find them. No, that was one of the I love monster movies. I don't think that it's the best film he's ever made, but it's one that always gets forgotten about, and I still think that I think it's fun. But the one that I really would recommend, and I'm gonna get shit for this, and I don't even care. I love Music of the Heart.
I was going to mention that. I saw that he did this biopic. Music of the Heart.
Like, okay, lest we forget, I am a musical theater, jazz wearing, choir singing, total fucking dork. Like, this and like Mr. Holland's Opus, like, fuck me. Like, I will cry for days. But it is kind of like a white people save the world movie, which I hate that aspect of it, but I don't know. I love it when people who are predominantly genre directors do something completely out of left field.
Is this his only kind of drama? He's stuck in horror mostly. I know he did some
Red Eye's
Disney,
a thriller,
and yeah.
Like, he has things that are kind of, like, that teeter within genres, but this is
Music
really...
of the Heart is like, just so out of left field.
But, like, it's got Meryl Streep and Angela Bassett in it. Like, I don't know. I love it, and it's charming, and I think that it gives you a sense of how nice of a person he really is. Like, there's so many misconceptions that we have about people who make horror films, that we think that they're like these deranged, fucked up people. And for some directors, they actually kind of, revel in that sort of image. Like, they think that because they make horror films that they need to be like, I'm super tough and brooding and scary. And like, Wes Craven was never that person.
Right.
He was always like your fun and nice grandpa who like takes you to the movies and lets you say shit when your mom doesn't let you. Like,
right.
He's like that guy. And he's just such a sweet and kind-hearted person, and Music of the Heart, I think, kind of expresses that softer side to him that, you forget exists when, you're electrocuting Horace Pinker. So, I don't know. I love it, and I think that, you know, if you really want to say you're a fan of somebody, you have to watch all of their weird stuff. That'd be like saying, like, yeah, I really like watching Mad Max Fury Road, but fuck Babe 2, Pig in the City. Like, nah, dude.
Well, if you want to get into that, how about his porno career?
Wes Craven's budding porno career?
Yeah.
Dude,
I've
I'm
seen
all
it.
about that life. I am so about that life.
Remember, Brad, how I said I've never seen a porno or haven't watched a porno in forever? After we talked, I found his Wes Craven's porno.
Oh, his Fireworks Woman?
Yep.
I actually rewatched it again tonight.
You're a true fan.
Funny.
That's why you're both so high energy.
Well, it's such an odd porno. You know, because literally the title makes absolutely no sense. The Fireworks Woman is actually a man who is Wes Craven.
He's my firework woman.
Well, it's about a brother and sister who want to fuck.
Yeah, that's...
You know? And it's
People Under the Stairs, the prequel.
It's just an incest about this dude who wants to become a priest, but his sister just wants to fuck, so she goes on a fucking spree, and he has to go save her. So he gets to put the, you know, P in the B. Right? Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird. He did it under a director name, though.
Ape Snake. Ape Snake.
It's the best.
It's such a good name.
He was actually he acted in not like pornographically, but he was in some other hardcore films, just kind of as, you know, helping out. I don't know exactly how he got into.
Well, it must have been how he broke into the business. I mean, you want to be a filmmaker.
He was very quiet about it.
Yeah, you want to be a filmmaker. You just kind of jump in and do something.
I don't think there's any like hardcore proof that he directed the Fireworks woman. Because I think there's a lot of discrepancy of that his other friend directed it, but there's been claims of, you know, from certain people that it actually was Wes Craven. But yeah, I don't think he ever was open about it. Like, he never wanted to talk about it. And apparently he made a comment because he's actually in the documentary about Deep Throat. Inside Deep Throat, he makes a comment about how he actually worked and did more, but he just never mentioned it. So apparently he directed more than just one porno, but it's just never been clarified or he said openly. So
right,
it's kind of odd.
You know, I think you'd be surprised. I guarantee you a lot of filmmakers got their start there because it's easy. It's an easy stepping stone. You know, it's easy just to get in there and get some work done. Get your foot in the door.
A lot more do it than, you know, admit to it. I mean, fuck, if you ever get the chance, listen to the Nerdist podcast where Joe Lynch talks about color correcting porn. Oh my god. It's the grossest, best thing in the entire world.
I gotta find that.
It's so fucking gross.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, no, there's a lot of people that still do it today. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, shit. That's how you get in. That's how you get in. That's why we got fucking...
Literally.
That's how we get fucking Sasha Grey and Would You Rather and Open Windows.
Yeah.
Because butt sex.
Oh, good dear God. Blech. All right.
You know, and another thing that people need to realize is that if you didn't have Wes Craven, who did Nightmare on Elm Street, you may have never got Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Oh,
because
shit.
Robert Shea was the producer and was the producer for all the Nightmare films, who became the executive producer. Executive producer people, the people that throw down the cash. So he threw down some big fucking cash from New Line Cinema. Robert Shea is also the CEO of New Line. But the only reason he is as big as he is because of the success of Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, that's every film, I mean, can't cost more than probably $10 million, and probably over time has ranked each one maybe over $100 million, I would say, safely.
Yeah,
like through video and theatrical and worldwide. Yeah.
There's a pretty great documentary on, I don't know which set it's on, but it's called The House That Freddy Built. It's all about how New Line got their start and stuff.
Yeah, no, I think I know what you're talking
about. Is that on the box set for the Blu-ray?
For
Nightmare on Elm Street? Yeah.
I don't know.
It was on because I had found like that the original DVD box that came with like the Nightmare Encyclopedia. I think it was on that DVD.
Then it's on the same because all that stuff transferred.
All that stuff transferred over. Okay, cool. It's a pretty great documentary.
Which is another thing I wanted to mention because I mentioned earlier today the only thing that's scarier than A Nightmare on Elm Street is Wes Craven telling the story of how he came up with that entire idea.
Oh yeah,
and that's actually on the box set. There's an interview with him, and it's just the camera just stays on him, like for literally 30 minutes it seems.
Yep.
And he tells this full story about the dream sequences or the guy that died in his dreams to the part of how he came up with the idea of Freddy when he was like 10 years old being, kind of stalked by this homeless guy, out through his bedroom window. And it's just fucking nuts.
So this is going to sound like kind of crazy, but I, for the life of me, cannot remember what magazine it was in. It was either like 17 or J14 or some like teen girl magazine. And it was in their Halloween issue. And they had like this back page that was like scary stories from, famous horror, whatever. Like Stephen King had something in there and I don't even know who else. But Wes Craven had wrote a piece about how Freddy came to be. And it was like this very elaborate story about being, stalked by the homeless man and whatever. And then like it ended on the last line, and then I named him Freddy Krueger. And like that was the end of the article. And I remember just reading that and being like, what the fuck? And like it blew my mind. And I've never, like, I should have saved it. I don't know why I didn't, because it was so cool the way that he wrote it. Like the whole time you have no fucking idea that he's talking about, making A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's just Wes Craven telling the story about being a kid and this scary experience, and then he just ends it with, and then I named him Freddy Krueger, and you're like, what? Brilliant.
You want to talk about something fucking crazy is fucking Wes Craven doing New Nightmare.
Yes.
Like, of all these shitty sequels, because I'm actually I'm not a fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels. I mean, I like the third one a little bit.
The second one is the bomb.
The second one is one of the worst movies ever made.
The second one is amazing, and you just hate gay people.
Wow,
it's unintentionally hilarious
gay.
with a few inspired dream sequences for sure.
It is the gayest movie ever made.
It's wonderful,
and I love it. It's so good.
But the Freddy sequels, I'm not that big of a fan of at all. But when he did New Nightmare, that was like new. Like he did it. Like I would say, in a way, it would not for the industry, but for that series, that was another big stepping stone. Like another game changer for him is like, you know what? Kind of fuck everything I did and what I built. I'm going to make this all real life, put myself in the movie, and make it another, like, it was
so
like,
meta.
Yeah, and it was just like, all right, well, fuck Freddy. He doesn't exist, but he does. And this is and it's just a total mindfuck. That movie really messes with your head.
I love that flick.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it quite a bit too, but it was just like one of those things that was like, wow, man, you really fucking, like, that's some thought. Like, you want to revisit A Nightmare on Elm Street, or you want to do another sequel. No, I'm just going to kind of toss away, everything else. Because he has that line in Scream where, is that with a guy with the knives with fingers? And she's like, yeah, Freddy Krueger. And he goes, oh, Nightmare on Elm Street, I love that movie. And she's like, I like the first one, but the rest suck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, such a fucking classic line.
Yeah.
And I remember in an interview with him, someone mentions that, and he just laughs and he says, I didn't write that. So
I love the thing that he tweeted. God, what was it? Where somebody was like,
"Oh, the Fangoria thing."
Yeah, like, what's your least favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film? And he retweeted he wrote the remake. I'm like, God damn it, you shady bitch! I love you. Like, that's so funny.
Fucking trolling at its finest.
Oh God, and like nothing will ever beat that. Like, it was so perfect and so well timed. And the second I saw it happen in real time, and I was like, oh my God.
It's such a hardcore burn.
It's so sick. So sick.
Sadly, he's he's gone. But it's definitely like I said, it definitely hit close to home because so many of his films inspired me to be. I mean, I wrote my very first screenplay in 1996. I was 12. It's called Restitution. I wrote that script right after I saw Scream because I was like, God damn it! Like, if people can do this shit and it's popular and people like it, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a fucking slasher film. I want to do it because I felt it coming back, and it did, and it came back huge, and that's what's that movie's responsible for getting my ass in gear and writing this shitty fucking screenplay. But I did it because of that. And that's another reason why it's just, it's just so great. And then I tweeted, which is another thing. I said I think about people under stairs constantly. I tweeted last night that no matter how many times I write a screenplay, I'm never going to make characters like Mommy and Daddy from the people under stairs. I'll never, ever achieve that. And no one will.
No way.
I've never seen characters that sinister that we just fall in love with that are so awful, like truly awful people, like beyond awful, that we just love to watch and crack up and want to see them more. Like, how do you create such likable villains like that are just like, I mean, everybody likes the Joker. The Joker's just a fucking asshole. He just likes to create chaos. But what about people that are fucking raping their kid, that are incest, that are fucking cutting tongues out of kids, leaving them under the stairs and fucking eating people? Like,
spoiler alert.
I don't have a fucking t-shirt. No, well, we talked about all that. But I don't have a fucking t-shirt or there's a big fan club of fucking, fucking Gacy.
Right.
No, we all hate Casey's ass. But I mean, it's a real person. But I mean, but still, that reality, is that we still enjoy those types of things. We like reading stories about, well, not everybody, but we enjoy kind of that evil side. It sucks when people get hurt, but everybody enjoys kind of something sinister. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we like horror films. We get to watch this fantasies play out, which we don't want to see in reality. So, which is another thing I think is great by Wes Craven. That's the reason why he can hit such a nerve, is that he hits these movies on such a note that it feels real. And, even though fucking Freddy's a ridiculous character, not in the first film at all, I don't think, but, Freddy's known as a fucking jokester. He's an asshole. He's stupid.
Not in the first
but
one,
in the
he's
first
legitimately
film,
terrifying.
He's really terrifying. I mean, he's another thing, a child murderer, who can haunt your dreams. And that's the scary part, because anything can happen in our dreams. We know we can't get away. And just him taking that, such an easy concept, but making it just so fucking terrifying, and just so scary for people is just, I don't know, it's just wonderful.
Yep.
Wonderful thing.
Yep, he will be missed. I was like getting a drink of water at like 4 a.m. when I saw, and I just check social media whenever I wake up in the middle of the night, and I saw that he had passed, and I was just like, I was hoping it would be a hoax, but then I saw so many tweets about it, and I was like, shit, it's not. Because we got the stupid actor director hoax things where they're people tweet that RIP so and so.
No, I immediately checked his personal Twitter account, and that's when I knew it's true.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
So weird. It's so weird that we can do that now. Like, someone passes away and you check their, So people, watch what you tweet, because if you go, what's your last tweet going to be?
There's actually a website that does that.
Oh, it is? That's fucking morbid.
But it's interesting.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know if it's not exploiting. I don't know if it's morbid. I think it's interesting more than anything.
Yeah.
It's also really sad. I think anything, it gives you more perspective on life. What were these people doing? Were they living life to the fullest when it ended?
Right.
I don't know. It's interesting. Death's an interesting thing to me. But anyways.
Yeah.
Rewatch Scream 4 if you don't like it. I did, and I actually enjoyed it the second time around.
I like it more than 3.
Oh, God. Fucking
3
watching paint dry.
3 just got too caught up in the whole... That one was just too much.
I have no idea, but that's fucking Aaron Kruger for you. He ruins everything. He better not. He better not remake Videodrome. I'm going to be so fucking pissed if
Bob
that's true.
show up. It's like, what the hell?
It's such an odd fucking movie. But I mean, that's the thing is like he went off the deep end after Music of the Heart ruined him. BJ, or hate to say it.
It did not.
He got all soft. He did Scream 3 and cursed right after it.
That's funny. All right. Well, like he's a director that he's left an impact and like Brad, you used one of your tweets. You said that even with all the the lesser movies, he has those 3 movies that have made more of an impact than any other. Than a lot of directors can't say that they've left that much of an impact after 3 or 4 movies. So
yeah, I mean,
he's definitely. I think
it's crazy.
Yeah, so I think he has a wealth of filmography to dive through, and so I'll be looking forward to I'll be adding a few of these movies into my collection that I haven't grabbed yet for sure. I always do this when a director passes away. I always try to find some movies, find the gaps in my collection, and try to close those gaps with their movies because they're never going to make another one. So,
yeah.
All right.
I'm sad now.
Yeah, I don't feel like giving a whole shitload of plugs. Go to the ScreamCast.com, go to our sponsors page, and give everyone on there some love. We will talk to all of you guys next week. Do you guys have anything else to say, Brad and BJ?
No, I'm just sad.
No,
yeah, I'm just sad
bummed.
too.
I'm sorry, everybody. You are too. If you listen to this show, you're definitely missing Wes Craven for sure. All right, we will talk to all of you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, don't tell me you're leaving. The party's just begun.